Hi folks, this is the Lab Cook Foodie here, and today I'd like to show you how to make the cinnamon sultana bread. Let's get to it. So in this recipe, the base bread dough is the same as before. There are some changes made to the original dough composition. So let's have a look at how the base dough is made. In the first generation of bread, I used 0.9% of diastatic malt. In this second reiteration, I bought a commercial dough improver, and that has improved the texture and the crumb of the bread. Today I'm making about 2.5 kilograms of bread. When that gets going, I'm going to now weigh out the remaining flour and then put it into the mixer. Okay, so after adding all the flour, all we're doing right now is let it mix until it doesn't look shaggy. Currently it looks shaggy and wet. We don't want that. The longer you let it spin, the better the ingredients will come together, and you're going to see that the surface is going to get smoother. You start to see that pumpkin shape. It spins and then comes back out. What you don't want is the mass to stick to the wall of the bowl, or that when it spins is not pulling it into the center, then you know that your dough is too wet. Every time you start the process, especially when you add the yeast first, you have to remember fermentation is taking place. And so you don't want to spend ages and ages. Whenever this spins, you're adding friction, you're adding heat, and that will speed up the fermentation process. So you don't want to wait too long. And it's also important that you know what kind of yeast you're using. Today I'm using the Saf Gold version, and so it is going to be very quick. I have to be careful on how long I actually do this, and then the time I need to put it into the proof box. So every now and then you have to take it out, do the window pane test. Yeah, this is no good, this is breaking apart. Another thing is, if you're wearing gloves like this, you have less sensitivity on how tacky the dough feels. Now without the glove, you can feel the tackiness, the moisture in the dough, and that gives you a more idea the health of the dough, whether it's too wet or whether it's too dry. So when you're introducing the butter, you want to place it right in the middle. You cut it up in tiny pieces, and don't leave it as gigantic blocks, otherwise it's not going to incorporate efficiently, or the incorporation is going to take longer. So the smaller the pieces, mini sides, more surface area. You don't want to also soften the butter too much where it becomes a liquid. That's not good. That actually does not help the texture of it. It will ruin the dough. So if you want, just leave the butter room temperature beforehand, let it soften naturally. Otherwise, you can put it in the microwave for very gentle heating. So initially, when the butter is going in, it feels like now the dough has more water and it's going to look runny, but over time when it gets more incorporated into the dough, it's going to form that beautiful pumpkin again. You just need to give it time. Alright, so it's getting there. The key is always to look for that shininess on the surface. Periodically you need to do this. Yep. No. Okay, the best way is actually take it out. Yeah, it's not there yet, even though the butter is incorporated into it, but the level of stretchiness is not quite there yet. So let's go back and continue the spin cycle. You do need to monitor this part quite regularly. In my first video I did talk about over kneading it. If you over knead it, you might destroy the gluten structure. Please don't get to that stage. Monitor the status of the dough, and if it passes the window pane, you need to take it out and start the proving stage. Okay, let's check the dough again. Wow, this is really good. Now obviously the more you stretch it, eventually it will break. Just one more spin before I take it out. Right, so before we put the dough into the proof box, I tend to get a Pyrex cup of hot water, and that's going to generate the temperature in the proof box. We want the proofing temperature to be between 28 to 31. I'm going to do like a slap and fold. So now very gently both hands pick it up, put it into the bowl. As soon as the dough is of the correct temperature, then every 15 minutes check on the dough. Do the poke test. Then that way you can be sure that it doesn't overproof. Now how do you know if you're not overproofed? Let's say I take it out and I plunk it onto the bench, the whole thing collapses, then you know that you've overproofed. The structure was at its maximum, so any disturbance to the bowl essentially just breaks it and then it collapses. You're gonna have a bad time after this, especially once you put it in the oven. You're not gonna get your soft, pliable bread. You're going to have this dense mass that just, you know, a complete letdown, and so that's what you don't want. Now put it onto the top. Alright, it comes out quite redly. If you didn't grease this in the first place, it's not going to just fall out. So we want to roll it out into a rectangular shape. Now the first one is done, you simply repeat the cycle and do the second one. Put the 2 loaves into the proof box again and let it rise. Once completed, the oven should have been preheated before the loaves goes in. You'll want to set the temperature at 190 Celsius. Before taking the bread into the oven, you must spray the surface of the loaf with water. This will help it with oven spring, and once in the oven, set it for 35 minutes. Take it out of the oven once it's done and transfer it onto the wire rack. Before taking out of the loaf tin, make sure to bump it twice, otherwise the loaf may collapse. Let it rest for at least 6 hours before you slice it. And that's it. Thank you for watching. Please follow and subscribe to this channel for more quality contents. I'll see you next time.